this looked awesome. It was a setting and genre we were all keen on, and it was an underdog story, redemption arc thing that we could all get behind. That makes it really tough for me to say that I do not recommend this, but unfortunately I don't.
When I announce a game to be my most anticipated for the year, in a year that also has God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring, I'll be honest, I don't really want to see this sort of reaction spamming my timeline. But it doesn't matter what everyone else thinks at the end of the day. It matters what you think. And when it was all said and done, as you can see by this video, I really enjoyed my time with the Callisto Protocol. Now, in a spoiler-free context, all I really need to say in regards to the Callisto Protocol is this. I highly recommend you wait for a sale on this one and thoroughly look into your platform of choice, as they do, or at least did, vary quite significantly. This game really is a love it or hate it sort of affair from what I've seen online, mainly centered around how much you enjoy or loathe the combat, and whilst I really liked it, your mileage may vary. I personally think the game is worth giving a shot and seeing for yourself what you think, but just at a price point you're comfortable with taking a gamble on. But as I said, I really enjoyed my time with the Callisto Protocol, and pretty much from the get-go I knew I wanted to try and achieve this game's platinum. I'd looked into the trophy list ahead of time, circled trophies I thought would test my mettle, and on the 2nd of December, I went and picked up the game and embarked on this journey. Heavy spoilers for the Callisto Protocol from here onwards. Proceed with caution. First things first, we select our difficulty, maximum security, to try and knock all these trophies out in a single playthrough, because I am a god gamer, and we begin. The game begins in the year 2320 as we are introduced to our protagonist Jacob Lee and his partner Max, who are ferrying shipments of volatile, mysterious cargo between Jupiter's moon Europa and Black Iron Prison on Callisto. Said run is supposed to be so lucrative it would be enough for both men to easily retire. Too bad retirement plans can never go that smoothly, as our ship is boarded by a group reportedly responsible for numerous terror attacks, the Outer Way, which pops our first of 27 trophies.
We've been boarded.
That's right, a nice condensed trophy list. We try to hand them their eviction notice, but not before one can shoot out our window and force the ship to crash land back on Callisto. Our buddy Max turned into Two-Face on the way down, leaving just Jacob and the leader of the Outer Way, Danny, as the only survivors. Thankfully, Starkiller finds us both out in the cold and offers us shelter.
That's good.
Unfortunately, said shelter is Black Iron Prison,
That's bad.
where we get a handy health bar and a fresh cut. Jacob was pretty tired after all that though, so when he awakens, Black Iron has become overrun by biophages. Look, it's no necromorph, but whatever. It gives us a chance to escape. It's outside our cell we finally meet our tour guide, Elias, who promises he knows all the best spots to escape, but only once we free him from his cell. He hands us possibly the toughest shiv of all time. I mean, look at this thing, handing us another trophy in the process. With our trusty shiv, we fend off some rioting prisoners in a scene that in no way I can show without getting age restricted, die over and over to the first enemy because I'm terrible, and finally get a nice sledge spear thing. We also unlock a trophy by complete accident, just trying to beat the first enemy with a nice throwback to Dead Space, and then finally unlock Elias's cell. This is probably a good time to point out, I died a lot in this playthrough, especially in the opening hour or two, because yeah, it's a bit of a steep learning curve. Without factoring in, I die in 3 or so hits to basic enemies if I'm at full health. It took me some time to learn how the dodging works, which I'll be honest, sometimes it simply doesn't. When is a good time to attack, how many attacks I can get before tiring out, how quickly enemies recover from stuns, what combinations they have, etc. It's a lot to take in at the beginning, with swift consequences for making a misstep, but it does get easier once they move away from strictly melee combat. Back to the story for a moment though, Elias's big escape plan, his chicken run if you will, is to convince Jacob to break Danny out of her cell so that she can summon a ship for them all to escape. In the meantime, we get rid of our hammer spear for a stun baton. What the hell is he thinking? Okay, never mind, good choice. We get some trophies for printing our first weapon as we find the hand cannon, upgrading our first weapon, find a GRP glove so I can give these zombies the good old "get over here" and give me a kiss. Use said gloves to throw zombies into the plethora of random spikes on the wall to pop another trophy, and all in the lead up to finding the shoe for one more trophy. I've got to admit, for just over a couple of hours of playtime, I was stoked with the progress we were making here. Too bad by the time I booted the game up again, I was starting all the way back at the start. For context, the next time I picked up the Callisto Protocol was the 7th, due to working on other videos. So when I came back to the game, the collectible guides were out and about, and me being curious, I wanted to check if I'd missed any up to that point, and I had. I'd missed the very first one, and only one in the first mission. So instead of progressing on this save, I figured I'd start again. It was only a couple of hours progress, and this time I knew what worked and what didn't, such as focusing all your efforts into upgrading your stun baton immediately, and the GRP is fine as is. Don't waste too many credits on that one. In this process of restarting and making my way back to the shoe, I unlocked a nice and easy trophy for dusting off the old photography skills, another for using the most OP combo in the game, the grab and smack. And once I made it back to where I originally was, unlocked a few more trophies for getting a good grip, terminating, well, not quite the T-1000, but a security robot who will instantly kill you if you aren't quick,
Critical failure detected.
and throwing more enemies at dangerous objects. While I was getting these, remember Elias's grand plan? Yeah, well, once we free Danny, she refuses and runs away. Doesn't matter though, we'll just begin to head to the hangar anyway and hope somehow we can get a ship. As we make our way through the grot in the sewers, I managed to fully upgrade our first weapon, the pistol, as it's the cheapest to do so, unlocking another trophy. And then reloading the checkpoint because that really is a waste of credits that are better spent elsewhere. Of course, in the sewers, Jacob eventually gets flushed away, unlocking another trophy. Jacob and Elias are about to have a nice simple tram ride to the hangar before an infected Starkiller interrupts, ejects the two, killing Elias in the process. Which was honestly a shock. I thought for sure he'd betray us. Maybe he would have, but now he can't at least. Danny finds Elias's distress call, decides to team up before she says catch you later to Jacob, see you at the hangar, and we brave the freezing cold wilderness. After slugging it out in the cold, we end up catching a ride with Danny, who makes a detour from the hangar to the crash site where we unlock another trophy, and she gets egg all over her face as she finds out Jacob was just carrying medicine. She'd been mistaken. There's definitely nothing underneath. After Danny sees that, she begins to trust Jacob more, and the two leave the crash to call in the ship to come rescue them, popping another trophy before the warden says and shoots down the ship as no one is allowed to escape. The ship hits the hangar and we flee, with our only remaining course of action being to head back to Black Iron to at the very least figure out what the hell is going on here. We traverse the wreckage the crash ship caused on the facility, get our next trophy for backstabbing a bunch of blind enemies. Seriously, this trophy could have been 100 kills, I still would have gotten it. You backstab so many enemies. And later on find our second of 2 secret rooms that, they look like Kanye would be cool with, if you know what I mean, which unlocks another trophy. We managed to power up an old facility, which pops yet another trophy.
Power's on.
And with the power back on, we use a massive drill platform to progress, facing hordes of zombies as well as our first 2-head fight. An enemy that hits like a ton of bricks but is thankfully easy enough to avoid, and once we take him out, we unlock another trophy. We use the platform to head to Callisto's original colony. I finally unlocked the perfect dodge trophy, which involved perfectly dodging 5 times. but it honestly just felt like luck more than anything, as I literally just spammed the left stick on this one enemy to try and get the last one I needed. We find out where this virus originated from, popping a trophy, learning that this is not the first time the virus has been released, finding the same cargo Jacob was holding with the virus underneath the medicine, but of course Jacob knew nothing about, and narrowly escaping a star killer who looks like he got stung by something. Danny becomes infected, we both end up getting recaptured and thrown back into our cell to think about what we've done, prompting another trophy to unlock. Once Jacob has thought about what he's done, he's freed by Dr. Mauler, and she tells him to meet her at her lab where she can cure Danny and get him to the warden. Along the way we found the last of our 43 collectibles, though it popped for me at 42 for whatever reason, as I let out a sigh of relief when the trophy unlocked, since this is a bugged trophy you need to pay close attention to when picking up each item. Probably the toughest trophy in the game, considering a lot of these collectibles are off the beaten path. The secret rooms contain a couple, some cannot register, but if you are naturally curious, you should find most of them, though I do recommend a guide. With all that out the way, now all I needed to do was finish the game, and the platinum trophy was mine. Mauler reveals that the Warden is part of a religious organization called the Commonality, who are attempting to enact a plan called the Callisto Protocol.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
Trying to find a way to advance human evolution in this space age. The Warden decided to arrange a second outbreak here in Black Iron to find a subject compatible with the alien infection and replicate the only one to successfully evolve, which... well, yeah, that's Swollen Starkiller. The only way to cure Danny is to get some of the Alpha's DNA, but before moving on to face the Warden, Jacob needs to know more, and through doing that avatar thing, accesses Danny's memories, learning her sister died in the Europa outbreak, and relearns that he did in fact know that he was transporting the virus. I know, it's a big shock. We finally confront the Warden, who sicks Bumblebee at us, transforming further like he's straight out of Resident Evil, and despite kicking my ass for a solid hour, mainly because of the exploding enemies that are constant, we do finally defeat him and extract his DNA. The Warden tries to sweet talk us into just walking away, but of course we save Danny. The Warden sets Black Iron to self-destruct, and whilst escaping, Jacob puts Danny in the last remaining escape pod, along with evidence to expose all of this. Jacob fends off swarms of infected before being contacted by Mauler, who halts the self-destructing and tells him that he can escape another way before one last look at the Wicker Man himself. The credits roll, and one after another our trophies pop. Unless you're like me, and they don't. Yeah, for whatever reason, my maximum security trophy didn't unlock at the credits, which is always annoying and not an issue I've seen many bring up, which makes me think it's pretty uncommon, but I didn't panic. Until I reloaded the checkpoint, and it still didn't pop. I had one option left, and if it didn't work, I was at a loss. Whilst maximum security wasn't the toughest, doing that again would have probably broken me. Thankfully, quitting out of the game and restarting it, reloading the checkpoint, my final 2 trophies popped, and so ended my time with the Callisto Protocol. For now at least. So, after it was all said and done, would I recommend going for the Callisto Protocol's Platinum or 100%? Once again, it depends on how much you enjoy the game. It's not a difficult Platinum, in fact it's surprisingly simple, with most trophies unlocking naturally and only a few really notable exceptions, and even the big one, Maximum Security, as of right now can be exploited as long as you start and end your playthrough on the difficulty. Everything in between can be on whatever difficulty you choose, but even if you play through it all on the hardest difficulty like myself, it really isn't that bad bar a few sections, and that mostly comes down to, for me, a lack of a lock-on feature, as you can lose track of enemies in a group with the camera a bit too close to Jacob's rear end. You can really stun lock enemies quite easily with the GRP, melee and quickfire combo. You can simply pick them up and throw them off a ledge even. you have a lot of ways to put the fights in your favor. If this game does end up clicking for you and you really enjoy it, I think you could pretty naturally go for this platinum. Just again, look into the collectibles as they are a bit buggy. Does the platinum add to the experience? I mean, the collectibles add further backstory, but mostly it really just feels like the trophies are based on things you'd be doing anyway, which I personally really loved about this experience. As for my thoughts on the Callisto Protocol itself, whilst I really did enjoy it, that doesn't mean it wasn't also a little disappointing. This was my most anticipated game of 2022 after all. It had been so long since we'd seen an entry in the Dead Space series or something similar, and the Callisto Protocol wasn't really what I expected. I think it nails the atmosphere presented through the environments. The visuals are phenomenal. I mean, look at those chompers. The biophages are various and do a good job at keeping you on your toes. The combat really clicked with me. I love the weight of the melee and the punch of a good shotgun, and at times feels almost like a fighting game, which I think was intended. I like Jacob as a protagonist. The story I found to be really intriguing and builds an interesting world, even if I don't think it nails everything like the ending, for example. The rewards for venturing out and exploring are well worth your time, holding a lot of gun schematics you'll want as well as currency to upgrade all your gear. But it does have to be said, there are far too many jump scares that don't even make me flinch, which is saying something. The dodging can be a little unresponsive and you aren't able to dodge projectiles and instead need to run away. The camera can really get up into Jacob's business. No lock-on baffles me. The save system needs to be addressed as you can manually save, but even with manual saves, if you die and you are exploring off the beaten path, not getting a checkpoint, because you weren't progressing the story, you do have to go a fair ways back. Some sections can overstay their welcome. The final boss is more just about avoiding these exploding terrors rather than an actual tough encounter, and overall it does feel more like a tense action game than a survival horror game, which I personally don't mind, but I don't feel it was advertised as such. The game has flaws, there's no question about that, but I personally think the good outweighs the bad quite significantly, and as a fan of sci-fi horror, I did really get a kick out of this game. I'd be really interested to see where they go from here in the DLC, and maybe one day a sequel. I think there's enough here to warrant seeing more from this universe, and I think the core foundations are solid. But again, your opinion may vary. With that being said, who's ready for that Dead Space remake next month? Thank you all so much for watching the video. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave the video a like because it helps let me know that you enjoyed yourself. Comment below your thoughts on the Callisto Protocol and your platinum experience if you went for it. Also be sure to let me know if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Shout out to the channel members Infamous Hellfire, featuring Gaziano, Christian Vargag, Cloud Connection, Cynical D, Conquer, and Carnage for that extra level of support. I truly do appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Go give my socials a follow if you fancy at MayorHairBear, and I'll catch you all in the next video.